So mixed messaging, on the one hand, don't book for Christmas, don't dare come home. On the other hand, we're embracing the traffic light system. You've got to speak with one voice.
We do have to speak with one voice, and I think we are. And I think the Irish people understand the two different parts to the message. The first part to the message is we're in the middle of the biggest global pandemic in 100 years. We're all aware of the consequences of that at this point. And so the public health advice is if you don't need to travel, and by the way, that applies domestically as well as internationally, if you don't need to travel in the middle of an international global pandemic, which is causing so much hurt and pain and cost for everybody, then don't. The second part of the message is, however, if you do need to travel, and that includes if you haven't seen your family, if you do need to come home and see your family at Christmas, then there is a clear traffic light system in place for the protocols that you need to follow. I think that's a pretty common sense approach, Pat. I don't see any conflict between those two messages.
But here's the rub. You've got a 25-year-old boy or girl coming home, and you're telling them, to get a test before they come in, and it's a 3-day-old test. Then you tell them to isolate, and they're only home for 7 days anyway, and you're telling them they can't see their mates. I mean, we're really looking at Cheltenham and Italy all over again. Do you know? Unless we do something a little more rigorous, like other countries have done, be it Australia, New Zealand, or whatever, just using the honour system, I'm afraid, does not work.
I think that's a fair challenge, and I think there needs to be some very serious thinking about the compliance. What we can say is that the rules are absolutely clear. So if anyone is flying home for Christmas from a green country, now there's currently no green countries in Europe, and I doubt there will be any by Christmas, but if you're coming home from a green country, there's nothing you need to do. If you're coming home from an orange country, you need to have a positive, or a negative PCR test 3 days before you travel. And then before you travel, obviously, you should restrict your movements as much as possible. If you're coming from a red country, and the vast majority of people who are coming home will be coming from red countries, it is absolutely clear what you have to do. You've got to come in, when you come into Ireland, you've got to completely restrict your movements for 5 days. At the end of that 5 days, you need to take a PCR test.
How are you going to check up on all of that?
Well, there's no country in the world, to be honest, can check up on it. Like the UK, for example, brought it in as a legal requirement, but they never enforced it because these things really aren't enforceable. I had a very useful conversation with Mike Ryan and the WHO about exactly this point. And it's impossible for any police force anywhere in the world to be checking whether or not people are in their homes exactly when they said they would be. And that's not the type of society we have.